Hey, good morning and welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday. I feel like I've lived an entire lifetime before I ever even started this video, but nonetheless, it is just about 9 o'clock. We are getting ready to go and have a play date with some friends, which is always a great way to start the day. It does, however, mean that things are a little jam-packed in the morning for me. So as you guys know, I work from home and keep my kid home most of the time. I now have him in a program half the day, which is awesome. For a hot minute, and by hot minute I mean like a majority of his life, I've kept him home with me while I've been working full time, so like a little tricky. But I try to jam as much of my work into the wee hours of the morning as possible, so I already feel like I'm ready for a nap. I am certainly ready for a latte. I started this week a little differently, and I've like made some changes to my Notion, which is like where I manage my entire life, which maybe at some point today I'll get a chance to show you. But you guys, those tiny little changes have made such a difference for how I'm approaching all of the things I need to get done in a single day, which you guys know I do a lot of everything, which can sometimes feel like I'm doing a lot of nothing. And I just kind of like switched a few things up, which just helps me feel, one, like I'm actually getting things done, but I'm actually getting the things done that I need to get done, which is really, really just, it's scratching an itch. It's scratching an itch. So that's been really great. And I do want to go ahead and just address and comment on, I have received so many text messages, DMs, and emails from like IRL friends and family, like in regards to my last video, who had no idea that our birth experience looked the way that it did. And I feel some kind of way about that because, one, there's a part of me that feels proud that like I carried it so well that nobody knew, but there's another part of me that like hurts for the person I was in that moment of like in the aftermath of delivering my son. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, in my last video you'll see I shared finally my birthing story, which was an emergency C-section, meconium aspiration syndrome. My son was in the NICU. I was bleeding out on the table. My son was not breathing when he was born. There was a lot of things. There was a lot. And in my mind, in the aftermath, it felt very minimalized. I don't know if I was minimizing it myself or if I just knew other people that had experienced worse things. And so in my mind, it wasn't a big deal. Going back and like editing that video, obviously having people in my real life hear the story for the first time, we need to like do a better job of speaking up when things are hard for us and stop dismissing them as something that's not a big deal. Because who I am now, I'm a stronger person today than who I was going through that whole ordeal 3.5 years ago. I am a stronger person today. I don't know how. I seemed so generally okay in the aftermath of all of that. And it makes me sad because it's like I didn't even allow myself the opportunity to have the support that I very desperately needed in that really vulnerable and scary and sad time, because I was so committed to seeming fine. I was not fine. I was not fine. Things were not fine. We were not okay. The things that I've dealt with my son the last 3.5 years, part of it is a result of what happened, of his brain being starved of oxygen for so long. I was not okay. I have not been okay the last 3.5 years navigating what we've been navigating. And we do ourselves such a disservice by pretending like we're fine. We're not. We're coping. We are maskers, right? I'm learning through a lot of like the evaluations that I'm having to do for my son, who is on the track to essentially being diagnosed with ADHD. It's pretty cut and dry. He's too young to have the diagnosis as of yet, but like I know where this bus is heading. And I'm reading these things, I'm like, this sounds awfully familiar. I feel like I've seen this movie before. And I was really like, I've been talking to my primary about like potentially exploring whether or not I have ADHD. And I saw something the other day in one of the research binges that I was doing, that a lot of times ADHD women go undetected or undiagnosed all the way up until adulthood, until they have children. And it's like having a child derails all of the strategies and coping mechanisms, masks that we've had in place in order to appear to be thriving in our lives. So yeah, that's a lot to unload on you first thing, but it's where my head's at. So all of that to say, I made some changes to my Notion, which is essentially like my brain outside of my brain, which has been very helpful. So I will try to make a point to show you some of these things later today. But right now I need to finish up what I was working on very quickly, throw some shoes on my kid, and get to the coffee shop. This is gonna seem crazy, but I'm literally in a parking lot getting ready to go to another coffee shop. I did not actually get coffee at the coffee shop earlier, but I did get some work done. The kids played. I love that little place. You've got to look to see if you guys have like a coffee shop in your area that thinks of kids. And I do feel bad sometimes because sometimes the kids get a little loud and like we, monitor that. But my friends today were reminding me, they're like, this is literally a place that kids are invited to come. So like, it's not like the same as like going to a Starbucks. So where I'm going now though is definitely like more geared to just like getting work done. So we stopped at my mom's house really quickly. I didn't film any of this, but we stopped at my mom's. We both ate our lunch, dropped Wade off at school. And now I'm going to hammer through the rest of my to-do list at a delicious coffee shop. And I'm absolutely getting a coffee where I'm at now. And it's so gorgeous outside. It's like 65 degrees, clear blue skies. I'm in like the quaint downtown area. It's a good afternoon. I do this to myself, but my husband had practice late tonight, so once I got my kiddo from the school, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just like hang around town. And it actually worked out that my sister is on spring break right now, and my sister and her daughter, my niece, are my kids' favorite people on the planet. And so I had her meet me at my mom's house, which I had to very quickly clean out my car. If you know, you know. Why does the car just get so bad? It gets so bad. I don't want it to. I don't. Like, in another life, I keep the cleanest car, the most organized car in the world. I couldn't keep that up when it was just me. Why I think I can do that with a toddler who has to eat a lot of his meals in my vehicle, which I know they're not supposed to eat in the car. It's a necessary evil in our life. So anyway, I had to clean up my car. My sister hopped in the car with me and we went and picked up my kid from school together, which he was just like over the frickin' moon about. And then we went over to Target, which is like his favorite place in the world because he loves to play with the toys. Although this visit was the first time that I'd been able to get away with going to Target and just kind of like wasting some time there because he loves to play with the toys and he's never ever like asked to bring them home. And I don't know what happened. And I think it's partially maybe because he's in class with older kids at school. There are things that he says now that I'm like, you definitely got that from school and like being around older kids. But yeah, he picked up like one of the most expensive toys that Target has to offer. And he goes, this goes home with me? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. That stays here. But we went and he got to see my niece and hang out with my mom. And then I was like, oh, this will be perfect. We'll like run up the rest of the afternoon. We'll do car dinner, which was McDonald's, which he and I both love. Save your judgments. I don't care. I am that mom that's gonna be like driving my kid home from practice and he's gonna be like, Mom, can we get McDonald's? And instead of saying like, no, we have food at home, I'm gonna be like, heck yes, we can get McDonald's. Always and forever, yes. Obviously within reason, moderation, whatever, I don't care. So we had car dinner and we get home and I was like, great, this is just like the perfect evening. I'll just like take my shower. You guys, I have sourdough that has to be tended to because we do pizza night on Fridays and I do the dough on Wednesdays and I didn't put it in my calendar. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't because my niece is going out of town and so he really would have missed hanging out with my niece if I had like prioritized getting home to tend to my dough. Like what kind of person am I? So I'm glad that I didn't realize it, but that now also just means that this grandma is gonna have to be awake. What time is it? Let's see. I just set it to rest for its first 30 minutes. It's 8 o'clock. So 8:30, first stretch and fold, 9, second stretch and fold, 9:30 will be my last stretch and fold, and that's when I can set it for bulk ferment. That's not so bad. But for someone who the last like several weeks has been asleep by like 8:45, it's gonna be a late one for me. But I guess while I'm waiting, I will show you guys what I've done to my Notion that has like helped the inside of my brain. And I think the thing I need to make like the most clear, and maybe some of you will get this, I don't know, this might be super niche, but like I have this tendency to overcomplicate things. I also have the tendency to go like all or nothing, which does not do me any good. These are also the reasons that I think I might be ADHD, but I really like get too granular in things. And like even earlier, I was trying to like segment things into like a to-do list and like categorize them. And I was getting like way too in the weeds with it. And I was like, nope, higher level, be higher level, stay higher level. You're making this too hard. You're making this too complicated. And if it's too complicated and my brain can't organize it, then I won't use it. And that is the most important takeaway from what I'm about to share with you is I had to like ultra simplify everything. And that made the biggest change for the inside of my brain. And mostly there are two main places that I made these changes. One is essentially like my work dashboard, which makes sense because I manage my life in Notion, but I also really manage my work in Notion. And on top, like along with like regular to-do lists and things like that, but like the notes and like the meat of everything that I'm typically working on lives in Notion. It used to live in Asana, now it lives in Notion. The other place that I've made a big change, and this seems so minor, but I used to be a daily journaler and I haven't really been journaling as much lately. And maybe I need to like get back into it because what I'm about to say, I feel like I know what my therapist's response would be, but it feels like my brain moves too fast and I get impatient with how quickly I could or could not write. And I have seen people share on TikTok the concept of like scribble journaling, where if they're not writing like coherently, they're just like essentially going through the motion of like downloading what's in their brain onto a piece of paper, and it just kind of like gets it out. It allows them the space to like think the thoughts, if that makes sense. I like the idea, especially for this season of the season of life that I'm in right now, of like having a summary of my day and kind of like having a space to like work through some thoughts more coherently, not scribble journaling, and really not even like notebook journaling right now, because I tend to do that more for other things. And so I have, let me get in here, hold on. Okay, so what I've done is I have this like section over here that is like daily reflections, and I have it set up where I have a few different templates. I have morning journal, I have medical tracking because again, one, we were trying to manage my medications earlier this year. I think I spoke about that on here a little bit. And I was really trying to like be very specific about how I was experiencing my days so that we knew what kind of medication would be best for it. And when I started on different medications, just trying to identify like exactly how I was feeling and charting it in the moment. So I had that to share with my doctor. Highly recommend if like you're going through any kind of medical journey. I had an experience in 2013 where like symptom tracking was really, really important. I wish I would have had this then. And then I also have an evening journal. I don't know why there's a D on the end of that. Let's fix that. But I can show you the evening journal template right now, which is my biggest change at the moment, which feels so dumb, but basically super simple. First of all, I can add the date of entry. I can add like how I was feeling energy wise throughout the day. I can add like the categorization, which is really not totally important because I have it as the template, but I can add like the little tag. And then here I can select as many of these as I need or want. And like, for instance, yesterday, oddly, I was feeling pretty neutral and like happy or like good, but also had like an underlying feeling of anxiety all day long for absolutely zero reason at all. So I selected all of those. This is where I've made the biggest change. So right here is daily progress. Let me show you something real quick. I'm gonna X out of this. I'm gonna go back home. And there are better ways, I'm sure, to do this, but this is just what works for my brain. I have this little to-do list box right here, and then I also have like upcoming reminders in case I need to like track things. I have my work dashboard, which we'll get into in a second, but like at the start of the day, I just kind of like write things down here because as many databases as I may have, as many to-do list trackers I may have, there's something about like taking some space and time to like write down what I need to be doing and having it straight here, like front and center, something that I took the time to add into this section. But this is not a section that archives. Like when like for instance, I finished setting this up. And I did start planning social and I didn't get to the school updates yet. So that's going to be something that has to go for tomorrow, but I'm not going to delete it off this list because this would not be captured anywhere. What I would typically do is I would just select all of this and delete it and move on for the day. But I've started to feel, and I think I've shared this before, that like I can spend a lot of my time doing a lot of everything, which makes me then feel like I'm not really accomplishing much of anything. And so a way that I figured out to kind of like help me with that feeling, but also kind of keep an assessment on, like a temperature read on what I actually can and cannot do in a given amount of time on a particular day, which is also important because my days look kind of different, but some things are pretty universal as far as like that particular day is concerned. And so like I want to be able to kind of track that and see like, oh, Wednesdays are maybe not the best for getting bigger projects done, or Tuesdays are really an awesome day to get bigger projects done. I don't really know what those data points look like because I don't have any data. I'm just surviving the days. And again, that's not a great way to live, but like it's just the truth of my life at the moment. So super minor, but we're gonna do this in real time right now. So I take this, I literally just copy it. We're gonna go into daily reflections and we're actually gonna do today's right now. So today we're doing an evening, and my energy level today was medium. Actually, to be honest, it was kind of low. Today is an evening journal. I have felt pretty happy all day and motivated and grateful. This is so dumb, but it has made such a big difference in how I'm feeling. I just capture the to-do list in this little section. And then I literally took out all of the fancy questions that I had in here that I had done research on of like, what are the best questions to ask yourself at the end of the day, blah, 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 blah. Like it was this like big thing. They were not like, it's not like I had to spend hours on this or anything, but it was really thought-provoking stuff, which is great, like really great. At the end of the day is not the time that I'm gonna do that. I am so beyond spent by the time the day is done. Like, what is it? I told you earlier, it's 8 o'clock right now. 8:08 to be exact. And I'm filling out my summary and I'm like dreading the fact that I have to be awake until 9:30. Like that's how like just dead I am by the end of the day. It is not the time to be asked any more questions. I'm at capacity. Decision fatigue is a real thing, and I don't want to have to like literally I have a 3.5-year-old. I don't want to answer a single question by the end of the day. So I just took all that chunk out. Now is not the season of my life that I'm going to be doing that kind of self-reflecting. But it is important to me that I'm like summarizing my day. I like to remember what I've done on any given day. I used to have a paper planner that like I would just like kind of write things in. Obviously I have my digital calendar that I do that with, but I just like add a little summary of what I did for the day. Again, that gives me enough of a memory jog to like be paying attention to what I'm doing and to like actually capture the day in my memory, because I've found that like I used to have such a good memory, and I know it's because I wrote everything down. But again, I'm just like surviving right now. And so like, I just feel like the days can very easily turn into just like ticks on a wall. And I don't want that. And I want to be able to look back and remember like, oh, this was the day that like Wade said something really funny. And this is like the space that I can write that down. And then just additional thoughts, like anything that I have in my mind that like I wanted to go ahead and get out on paper. And then it's here for the week. This section right here will show like an entire week's worth of reflections, and then it categorizes, like they're archived, they're not going anywhere, but then it'll turn over for the new week where it's just like another blank database for me to go ahead and add. I'll finish this section when I'm not on camera, because as much as I love you guys and I've been documenting most of my day, you don't need to know everything. But another example is I did change my morning journal as well, because again, I need it to work for me, right? Like I need this to be something that's improving my life, what's working for me. And I've found that when I'm waking up in the morning, I don't know how you guys wake up, but I wake up with like a brain full of stuff. And I essentially just kind of like carry it around, and it's like ping ponging around in my brain until I finally like give it a space to be. And for the first like hour and a half of my day, I'm not giving it a place to be. It's just like ping ponging around in my brain. So I changed this, where I wanted to get into the habit of, and I did for a little while, wake up and like work on this every single morning. And then I got out of the habit of it because it was too much work and it wasn't serving me in any way. It wasn't like adding to my life in any way, which I feel like we like fail to do that really very often. We're doing personal development, right? And we're reading all the books and we're doing all the research and we're collecting all the tips and tricks, and then we're applying them to our life, but they're not actually improving our life. They may also be making us feel worse about ourselves, because if it's not something that's working for you, it's just one more thing that like you're just kind of fighting through. The point is for it to be working for you. It's supposed to be adding to your life. It's supposed to be developing you in a way that's actually like making forward progress. It's not supposed to be like another cinder block wall standing in your way that you're trying to like knock down the second you open your eyes. That was a little dramatic, but you know what I'm saying. Like, how many times have we added something into our regimen that we're just like, this isn't working for me? And instead of adapting it to like adhere to what we need, we just ditch it altogether. And so that development is completely gone. Like it's just not even anything that we've added into our life. That's where this has been changed. First thing, I'm giving myself space to just kind of like anything that's on my brain. It doesn't have to be coherent. It's just like essentially the concept of like morning pages. If you've been familiar with that, I'm not doing 3 pages of this. That's not the life that I'm living at the moment, but it does give me a space to kind of like jot quickly down what's on my mind. And that could be like a pressing to do that I've like been thinking about. It could be the random thing that like, oh shit, we need dog foods. And I like, keep forgetting, but it's the first thing I think about when I wake up. But by the time I'm getting in the car to take my kid to school at 12, that thought's long gone. It just kind of gives me a space to like put the thoughts down. Obviously daily gratitude, that's a normal thing. Daily affirmations, that's something I'm trying to get back into the habit of doing. And then this, my friends, so simple, very simple, not at all revolutionary, no. But what's revolutionary is that I've given it a space to live, and this is not complete until this is complete. And we know that I like my morning walk. My walking pad's broken at the moment. I'll talk about that later. Get ready. And I don't necessarily mean like head to toe, makeup, hair, whatever. I just mean like get in clothes that are not pajamas or like the clothes that I was walking in. Start the load of laundry, my one load of laundry that I do a day. Start that load of laundry and then make the daily to-do list. And that's the to-do list that lives right here. And so to make this daily to-do list, this is everything. This is not just work, this is everything. This is like emptying the cat box and taking the trash to the dump, right? Like this is everything that I'm doing for a day. However, it doesn't have to just live in my brain. I do have this down here, which links to my work dashboard. And this is where life has taken shape for me recently. This is actually no longer relevant because I was using a template and I've changed it to be what I need it to be. It was for education. It was just one of the free templates from Notion. I've just made it work for me. This is at like a general snapshot of all of the responsibilities that I have work-wise. Okay, this dashboard is super new. I mean, within the last like 7 days, I've started to migrate everything over here. So a lot of this looks very empty at the moment because I have not finished migrating all of the content into here. I'm gonna click into my job for a second. And first of all, it says homework. Again, this was an education template. I have not changed all the things quite yet, but this is all of the assignments, right? These are all of the tasks that I have coming up. That's just a quick overview right here. However, you scroll down here, I've got a section for notes, which is like anything that I could possibly have. It's a database. It allows me to do whatever I need to do with it. Again, I have not finished migrating everything over from the other dashboard that I was using, but this is where all of those notes will live. Then I also have a section for meetings. And in this, I've kept track of like, when was the meeting, whether it was like impromptu or not. Like this one was a phone call, so like it wasn't something that was necessarily scheduled. What date it was, how long it lasted, because I do track my hours for this job. And this was not a scheduled meeting, but I just wrote down that it happened at 11 a.m. Again, just another way to like kind of capture my thoughts. I'm not gonna click into this because this is like actual like work stuff. But inside of here, I was able to kind of like take notes and like, this is also a time that like my boss will give me some assignments and things like that. And so I'm able to take that kind of information and then plug it into my task list, which I'll show you here in a minute. This is where my resources live. So like for this job, I have a lot of like contact lists. I have a lot of like instructions on how to do certain things, and then systems and processes are actually things that I've mostly developed. And so here's where a lot of this, what you saw on that main homepage, is feeding from this task list. And every single one of my, oopsies, I hit the wrong thing. Every single one of these like categories has its own little to-do list. So like what you see here, the same thing exists for my blog, same thing exists for YouTube, same thing exists for like my writing and my book promotion schedules and things like that. And it categorizes it like where only my writing is showing up in my writing, only my job stuff is showing up here. But what's cool is on the main page down here, all of it shows up. So like I can have as much showing as I want, or I can have all of it showing if I wanted to. And again, it's gonna pull from what I had, you know, showing up. Obviously, again, I haven't migrated everything over here because this is the video that went live on Tuesday of this week. And I have other content. I just haven't migrated it over, mostly because I knew I was gonna be filming this, and some things I just need to not have on the internet. And then this is what pulls, Campbell? That's what pulls to this here. And so you might be wondering, like, why am I keeping stuff here that's marked as done? And again, it's to kind of keep a gauge on like, hey, here's what's coming up for the week. That feeling of anxiety you have is useless because at this point I have one thing left to do that's like pressing for the week. Again, I have stuff that I need to move over. This is not accurate at the moment, but like, tasks that are upcoming, this can kind of help gauge, like, is my anxiety and the overwhelm that I'm feeling accurate? And likely not accurate. So those are the changes that I've made. And obviously, like, this is what helps me kind of create this to-do list here, which then goes into my reflections, and like we go in for that. Again, not major changes. These are not revolutionary things, but they have definitely helped the inside of my brain. That was literally perfect timing, because like as I finished like walking you guys through my Notion, the timer went off for my first stretch and fold. So let's get that done. I do notice, like, when I'm working with dough, my hands get really dry, and I think it's from all the flour. But anyway, this first round, it's not even stretch and folds. I do coil folds for pizza dough. But anyway, while I'm doing my coil folds, I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. While I'm doing my coil jeez, what is wrong with my brain? While I'm doing my coil folds, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for like showing interest in my Notion. I don't know that you actually are, but if you are and like you want more like Notion content that's not like I'm not a professional Notion user, like I'm an extremely like extreme beginner with it, and you want just to kind of like see how somebody else is actually using it in their real life, happy to share that if you want. This dough is very sticky. Like the first round of coil folds is always a bit of a mess. I usually make my husband hold the bowl, but he is doing bedtime at the moment. And by doing bedtime, I mean he's probably fallen asleep laying next to the toddler, and he'll come wandering out here in a hot minute. But yeah, this is not supposed to be sticking to my bowl or my hands quite like this, but it is what it is. Anyway, if you guys resonated with this content at all, or you just feel like we could be friends, go ahead and subscribe, like, comment down below, and let me know like how you guys manage the inside of your brain, and if you've discovered, if you've discovered that like sometimes you're trying to like force a system into your life because it works for somebody else, only to discover that like it's really just making things worse. I'm making this dough worse. Anyway, with that said, I'll see you guys all again very, very soon. Usually wave. Hands are very doughy.